The Young and the Restless spoilers shock. Tracy's voice cracked with fury as she stormed into the dimly lit foyer, her eyes wild with a cocktail of anger and fear. "How dare you!" she screamed. Her words echoing off the cold, marble walls. Earlier that evening, she had nervously recorded a message for Alain Laurent, a plea to postpone her long-planned trip. Yet now, as the minutes ticked by, the weight of her hidden doubts bore down on her. Even though her cover story had been impeccably crafted, an insidious worry gnawed at her. Was Alain truly the man he claimed to be? Or was there something darker lurking beneath the surface? Could he, perhaps, be Martin Laurent? Alain's enigmatic nature had always been a puzzle to Tracy. There were moments when his behavior seemed erratic, his responses laced with a tension that she could neither fully understand nor dismiss. Part of her wondered if his disjointed demeanor was the result of a personality disorder, a fractured psyche haunted by the ghost of a dead twin. The possibility haunted her thoughts, each theory more disturbing than the last. Earlier that week, while scrutinizing the details of Alain's mysterious explanation regarding an unusual alarm on his phone, a story that now reeked of contrivance, Tracy had shared her concerns with Sharon Newman. In the quiet sanctuary of a local cafe, over the soft hum of background chatter, Tracy confided her deepest fears. "I think I'm about to marry a monster," she whispered, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. Sharon listened intently, her face a mask of concern. Yet, despite the gravity of the situation, Tracy chose to guard her suspicions from Sharon, unwilling to burden her friend with the full extent of the creeping dread that had settled in her heart. While Tracy wrestled with these suspicions, life in the Newman household was unfolding with an air of tentative optimism. Connor Newman, buoyed by a rare surge of hope, announced the arrival of good news. "He has given good news," Connor declared with a brightness that cut through the melancholy that had long haunted the family. "This is the best news. We are a family again." His words, delivered with sincere joy, seemed to momentarily lift the spirits of his parents. In a heartfelt embrace, Connor clutched his parents, his arms a bridge connecting past grievances with a future brimming with promise. But not all corners of this intricate web of relationships could bask in the light of familial reunion. In a quiet, secluded corner of a lavish but lonely mansion, Diane found herself drawn to Phyllis, who sat in silent contemplation. The weight of recent events had etched deep lines of sorrow and resignation across Phyllis's face. When Diane approached, her voice was soft, carrying the muted sympathy of someone who had seen too much pain. "I've heard everything," Diane murmured, her eyes searching Phyllis's for signs of lingering despair. "I know how hard it's been." Phyllis offered a wry smile, her tone laced with a bittersweet humor that could only come from a lifetime of surviving betrayal and loss. "I think if I die, you'll throw a party," she replied, her words an ironic nod to the tumultuous past they both shared. In that moment, the weight of mortality and regret hung heavily between them. Diane, unable to keep her guard entirely intact, confessed in a hushed tone, "I have to admit, I stared death in the face not long ago. And yet, I'm still here, grumpy, spiteful, and vengeful. Just as I always have been." Her admission, raw and unvarnished, encapsulated the complexity of their existence, a constant dance between despair and defiance. In the midst of these converging lives, the specter of uncertainty loomed large. Tracy's internal battle waged on as she mulled over every nuance of Alain's behavior. Was his clever alibi for the phone alarm a desperate attempt to hide a more sinister truth? The thought sent shivers down her spine. Every piece of his conversation, every subtle hesitation, was dissected and re-examined in the solitude of her mind. She replayed the phone message over and over, seeking clues that might confirm or dispel her fears. The possibility that Alain might harbor the fractured identity of a dead twin, a ghost of the past manifesting in the present, filled her with an almost paralyzing dread. The tension reached a fever pitch when Tracy decided to confront the situation head-on. She revisited the exact moment when she had left Alan his message, her fingers trembling as she dialed his number once again. The silence on the other end of the line was more deafening than any scream, leaving her with a bitter taste of uncertainty. In that moment, the fabric of her carefully constructed life began to unravel, each thread a question mark leading to the dark corners of the unknown. While Tracy grappled with her personal demons and the possibility of marrying someone whose true identity might be a web of lies, the Newman family's brief foray into happiness provided a stark contrast, a fleeting glimpse of normalcy amid the chaos. Connor's jubilant embrace of his family was a poignant reminder that even in the most fractured of lives, moments of unity and hope could still be found. It was a testament to the human spirit's resilience, a beacon of light in a seemingly endless night. Yet, the complexities of the relationships intertwined in this drama were far from resolved. Each character harbored secrets and insecurities that threatened to erupt into open conflict at any moment. Tracy's internal battle, the enduring trauma of the past, and the fear of the unknown all coalesced into a narrative rich with tension and suspense. Her fears were not merely about marrying a man who might be a monster. They were also about the fragility of trust and the ever-present possibility of betrayal in a world where nothing was as it seemed. In the final analysis, the unfolding drama was a tapestry of intertwined destinies, a narrative where every revelation, every whispered confession, and every burst of unbridled emotion contributed to the larger picture of human frailty and resilience. Tracy, Sharon, Connor, Diane, and Phyllis were not merely characters in a story. They were representations of the eternal struggle between hope and despair, between the desire for connection and the inevitable shadows of doubt that followed. As the night deepened and the unresolved tensions lingered like a haunting melody, one thing was clear: the line between truth and deception was dangerously thin. And in that precarious balance, every choice, every word, and every secret held the power to change the course of their lives forever. Billy stood in the shadow of a once imposing boardroom window, his mind swirling with the dual promise and peril of his secret plans. The office, now quiet except for the occasional hum of the city below, mirrored the uneasy calm before a storm. 4 months. Billy had nursed a burning desire to reclaim the once prestigious title of Chancellor, a position that held both power and legacy within Abbott Communications. His ambition was not solely fueled by personal pride, it was a calculated move, one that he believed could right long-standing wrongs. Yet, as he mulled over his plans, the reality of his alliance with Aristotle loomed large. Billy's proposal was audacious. By joining forces with Aristotle, a man known for his unorthodox methods and cold logic, he intended to dismantle the influence of Victor, the formidable adversary whose mere name sent shivers down the spines of many in the industry. "It's about setting things right," Billy would later argue, his tone measured and resolute. He saw the collaboration as a necessary step to recalibrate the power dynamics that had long favored the ruthless Aristotle, with his brilliant yet calculating mind, was the key that could unlock the door to a new order, one where Victor's detrimental impact on the company would finally be expunged. However, the path to redemption was fraught with danger, and not everyone shared Billy's unwavering confidence. Sally, whose loyalty to the company and its values had been the cornerstone of her own ascent, could not shake the nagging worry that Billy's thirst for vengeance might be blinding him to the real risks at hand. The prospect of him revealing the truth about his plans, about his deep-seated desire to usurp Victor's influence and reclaim the chancellorship, left her feeling exposed and vulnerable. To Sally, it was clear that Billy's motives, while couched in the language of justice, were tinged with a personal vendetta that could easily spiral out of control. Her anxiety grew as she considered the consequences. If Billy's alliance with Aristotle were to become public knowledge, the fallout would be catastrophic. Not only would Victor, with his unpredictable fury, likely be provoked into a relentless counterattack, but the very foundation of Abbott Communications could be jeopardized. Victor's wrath was legendary, And the thought of his wrath precipitating the collapse of an institution that so many had built from the ground up filled Sally with a dread she could not easily dismiss. In the clandestine corridors of power, every decision was a calculated risk. Billy, ever the pragmatist, maintained that the collaboration with Aristotle would work like a well-oiled machine. He believed that Aristotle's expertise was precisely what was needed to neutralize Victor's influence, to handle the inevitable consequences, and to remove him from the equation entirely. "I'm not driven by personal hatred," Billy insisted during a hushed conversation in a dimly lit cafe. "I only seek to restore balance. To ensure that fairness is reinstated in a system that has long been corrupted by greed and malice." Yet, Sally's intuition told her that even the most meticulously devised plans could unravel under the weight of unforeseen variables. The tension between idealism and pragmatism played out in every whispered conversation and furtive glance exchanged in the halls of Abbott Communications. Sally's fears were compounded by the knowledge that if Billy's scheme were to be discovered, not just by Victor but by the entire network of stakeholders, the repercussions would be dire. The exposure of their secret alliance would not only inflame Victor's temper but could also lead to a cascading series of events that might ultimately result in the bankruptcy of the once mighty corporation. The delicate balance of power that held the company together was at risk of shattering into irreparable fragments. As if the situation weren't already volatile enough, another potential twist added a further layer of complexity. Rumors began to circulate that Billy, perhaps in a moment of misplaced loyalty or as a desperate bid for leverage, had disclosed crucial information to Phyllis Summers. For Sally, this was the final straw, a betrayal that underscored the precarious nature of trust in their treacherous world. The possibility that Billy had turned informer, leaking secrets that could be weaponized against them, struck at the very core of her fears. To Sally, this revelation was more than a mere misstep. It was an ominous signal that the intricate web of alliances and deceptions was fraying, and that the fallout could be more explosive than anyone had anticipated. In the quiet moments before dawn, when the office lights had long been dimmed and the bustle of the day had given way to an eerie stillness, Sally found herself alone with her thoughts. The weight of her concerns pressed down on her like a physical burden. She knew that confronting Billy directly might be the only way to gauge the true extent of his intentions. Yet the prospect of such a confrontation filled her with apprehension. The stakes were too high, and the repercussions too uncertain. In a world where every secret had the potential to ignite a catastrophic chain reaction, Sally could only hope that reason would prevail before the forces of vengeance and ambition tore their fragile reality apart. For Billy, the road ahead was a narrow path between redemption and ruin. His belief in Aristotle's ability to manage the fallout from Victor was steadfast, yet even he could not completely silence the growing whisper of doubt in his own mind. Each step he took towards realizing his vision was shadowed by the potential for disaster, a discovery that could transform a well-intentioned rebellion into a full-blown corporate war. And as the clock ticked relentlessly towards an uncertain future, every heartbeat, every whispered secret, and every cautious maneuver contributed to a narrative of suspense and peril. In the end, the tale of Billy, Sally, Aristotle, and Victor was more than just a struggle for power. It was a testament to the fragile interplay of trust, ambition, and the human desire for retribution. With every calculated risk and every whispered warning, the characters found themselves caught in a web of intrigue, where loyalty was as transient as the morning mist and the promise of justice could easily turn into a curse. The unfolding drama was a relentless reminder that in the quest to restore order, one must always be wary of the fine line that separates the righteous from the vengeful, for crossing that line could have consequences far graver than anyone could imagine.